Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, except for 12-year-olds, you're not welcome here. You know exactly what you did, and you know where the door is. I'm finally ready to announce that I have a date for the debate with the YouTuber or Twitcher or wherever he comes from, known as Vaush. It is this Tuesday that's coming up that I didn't look up the date for, sometime in May, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. And yes, it will only be streamed on this very channel. Don't even check Vaush's channel to see if he's also streaming the debate on his channel, because it's only going to be here, and if you check, you might find out I'm lying about that. And you know what, honestly, Vaush doesn't even have a channel, so don't even check the non-existent channel, just watch it here. It's very important that you just watch the stream here. Now, I'm hoping my announcement of the date and time of this debate will satisfy the Vaush fans that comment on almost every one of my videos that I should debate Vaush and I should stop dodging Vaush, which I was never doing, but I understand that you people are not intelligent enough to watch more than a minute into any video before forming your own predetermined opinion. Now, even I, of the 10,000 IQ, the man with unparalleled intelligence when it comes to the internet and specifically this platform, have to prepare for debate. So I've been consuming some of Vaush's content in order to get an idea of how he argues and how he talks to people pleasantly when he thinks he can move them more towards his side. And this is why I stumbled on his interview with YouTuber Chris Raygun, where they talked about a number of things that I didn't find all that interesting, if I'm being perfectly honest, and eventually they touched on the topic of today's video, which is the idea that South Park causes apathy, or in Chris Raygun's defense, because he did defend South Park just attracts people who are apathetic.
Right. Before that, though, really quickly, I disagree with your South Park take. My main issue, I really don't like South Park, even though it's made me laugh like a lot when I watch it, because I feel like I guess you've probably heard this criticism, but I feel like it encourages political apathy because every time it talks about an issue, because that's the format of every show, it'll be like two issues. It's dialectical, you know, you have like this, but then the other side will be just as crazy. I feel like it encourages a very specific type of political apathy that discourages like engagement or side taking. You know what I mean?
Now, the reason I'm making this video is because both of these ideas are completely wrong. South Park neither promotes nor causes apathy. South Park is a show about morality. Its entire premise is about teaching you a lesson. Now, the idea of South Park apathy, as far as I can tell, originated from a tweet from one Dana Schwartz. In there, she argued that South Park has done a lot of damage to our culture in that it trained a lot of people to be apathetic and to think that reacting to people actually being activists and making fun of them is more valuable than doing any activism yourself. But if you've watched more than, I don't know, one episode of South Park, you know that this is completely not the case when it comes to the show. The overwhelming majority of South Park episodes have a lesson in them. They are disguised behind the potty mouths of the children delivering that lesson, but in no way, shape, or form are South Park episodes mealy-mouthed or not taking a position on any given issue. Take an episode like The Underpants Gnomes. Now, obviously from the title and some of the content within this episode, you might think that this episode is just a joke and they wanted to say something about underpants gnomes because they thought that was funny at the time. But in reality, this episode is a moral lesson on the idea that big business is not inherently evil just because it is in fact a big business. In this case, Starbucks, or Harbucks to be more accurate, and the way that people in that town, especially businesses that have to compete with that big business, sometimes delve into immorality in order to fight back against them. It's all about the prejudices that people have against big businesses and demonstrating that these small businesses that form cartel-like organizations with the government can sometimes be infinitely worse than the big businesses that they're laying all these immorality claims on. There is a clear and concise moral argument being put forward by this episode of South Park, and if you think that's a one-off, you're just not paying attention. Look at the episode that they did as it relates to Boy Scouts and their failure to admit gay counselors into Scouts. Now, the episode lampoons the idea that you're protecting children with this policy by showing somebody who is clearly a hetero drill sergeant-like guy as an abuser while Big Gay Al tries to get himself into Scouts. But it also takes a stand on freedom of association, because when Gloria Allred and Big Gay Al actually win their case and Scouts are forced to integrate gay Scoutmasters into their organization, Big Gay Al says, listen, I am free to be the person that I want to be, but we have to be in a society where we can let closed-minded people like the Scouts be the organization that they want to be. He talks about how he'll still work to convince Scouts to change their policy, but he doesn't believe in forcing them through government or through lawsuits to do so. Again, you might not agree with this position, but this is not an apathetic position. This is a moral argument. South Park has an episode about the Catholic Church and a priest's quest to change the church from within, while the people of his town all turn to atheism and literally start spewing poo out of their mouth. Now, make no mistake, throughout this episode, the creators of South Park make it abundantly clear that they think that this problem in the church is something that goes all the way to the top and affects many of the people working in the church. However, the lesson of this episode is not to jump to atheism and become apathetic and spew crap out of your mouth. The lesson of this episode, and it's clearly a moral stand of this episode, is that the Catholic Church as an institution is worth saving. It is worth going to the top and reforming the church. This is the literal opposite of apathy. They are mocking the apathetic atheists that all they do is stand on the sidelines and talk crap about religion and the church. You literally have to miss the point of virtually every single episode of South Park to come under the impression that the creators of South Park are teaching you to be apathetic. They're teaching you to think for yourselves, to not follow groupthink, to actually stand up for principles and stand up for institutions when those institutions are valuable. Not leave the game, get into the game, get on the field, don't stand on the sidelines. The Goobacks episode, where immigrants from the future come back in time and depress the wages of present-day residents of South Park because their future is a dystopian hellscape, that episode is a critique of the idea that we should just import all these people from the third world in order for them to have better lives and send money back to their families. It's also a critique of the progressives who believe that because these people come from places of dire straits, that we should reform our societies in order to serve them. It's also a critique of xenophobia and the idea that we should sabotage ourselves in order to hurt the immigrants that we believe are lowering our wages and, as South Park put it, taking our gerbs.
They took our job! They took our job! They took your job! They took our job! They took your job! They took your job! They took your job! They took our job!
Now, ultimately, the episode comes to the conclusion that we should work hard to make the world better so that these people don't have to come here and create conflict in our society. And then they come to the conclusion that that's incredibly lame, and they decide to not do that and go back to self-sabotage. But aside from that part, the episode overall is morality, even if at the end, the joke is, let's just be apathetic and destroy ourselves in order to hurt these people. But there's still a moral lesson in there. Now, some of you out there, I know for a fact, are not convinced, because you can't be convinced because you're not very smart. But even the critique that they go after activists is not accurate. A lot of times in a lot of South Park episodes, they take aim at celebrities, self-righteous people who think that they are better than people in the middle of the country just because people like their movies. And the reason they do this is because they view celebrities as the most immoral people in our society, quite publicly immoral people in our society, who are in no position to lecture people in the middle of the country, and they don't know anything about people in the middle of the country. This is something outright stated by the creators of South Park. I mean, imagine the society that we have to live in, where we're being lectured by people who famously abandon their families, divorce their wives at the drop of a hat, get married after barely knowing someone, and do all the things that they do in order to prop up their own image so that they look better, so that they can make more money. South Park doesn't mock celebrity causes because they inherently think advocating for causes is bad. They mock celebrity causes because of the celebrities, because they take the fact that they have these causes that they advocate for and think that that somehow makes them more moral than people in the middle of the country. They don't like the elitism and the disdain that a lot of these celebrities have for the majority of the country, despite the fact that the majority of the country are the people who are propping them up to be celebrities in the first place. Now again, these messages aren't hard to find. You can look into Matt Stone and Trey Parker, or do something crazy where you watch the episodes. There's a segment at the end of the episode where Stan or Kyle, or at least one time Cartman, say that I learned something today, and they literally spoon feed you, for the stupid people out in the audience, the lesson of the episode. Have we all forgotten the South Park Muhammad thing? Did you ever wonder why the creators of South Park, at great personal risk to their own lives, tried not once but twice to break this convention that we don't show Muhammad because of the attacks that have happened in Europe based on cartoonists drawing Muhammad. That is clearly and unambiguously a moral stance, and it's a moral stance for a number of reasons. Not just freedom of expression, which is incredibly important and is a consistent theme throughout the episodes of South Park, but it's also a stand against terrorism and against violence. The idea that if you threaten violence or you commit violence in the past, that the West or people in this country or people in Europe will just give in to your demands even if they're antithetical to our values, is something that they saw as a problem, and it was a moral problem that they sought to address. If you listen to their interviews in why they were covering this topic and why they were trying so hard to get Comedy Central to allow them to show this and break this idea that we follow the demands of the people advocating violence, they tell you this.
It was before the Danish cartoon controversy, so it somehow is fine. And then after that, now that's the new normal. Like we lost. You know what I mean? Something that was okay is now not okay, and that's just...
Are you afraid that if the network allows you to unveil the Prophet Muhammad, that you will be bombed?
We'd be so hypocritical against our own our own thoughts if we said, okay, well, let's not make fun of them because they might hurt us. Like that's messed up to have that kind of thought process. You know, okay, well, we'll rip on the Catholics because they won't hurt us, but we won't rip on them because they might hurt us. Like that is not.
It's so sad. The whole Muhammad, the whole Danish cartoon thing. It's like if everyone would have just, like normally they do in the news organizations, just printed the cartoons.
Right. Everyone would rally together.
Now that guy has to be in hiding and all this shit because everyone kind of left him out to dry. It's a big problem when you have like the New York Times and Comedy Central and Viacom basically just pussing out on it. Sorry to say, it's just sad. It's just sad. I was like really sad about that whole thing.
Everything about those episodes were to make this moral argument. There's a reason that they showed Jesus Christ, the Messiah of the Christian faith, as someone addicted to adult videos in the same episode where they were trying to advocate for showing Muhammad and treating him like any other religious figure in our secular society. They were showing the hypocrisy of the fact that they were working on a show on a network that would allow them to do whatever they wanted with the holiest figure in Christianity, while simultaneously forbidding them from even showing Muhammad from a frame, despite the fact that they've shown Muhammad for an entire episode of South Park, because some people are advocating violence against those who depict him. Pointing that out was not advocating apathy or telling people to do nothing. They wanted people to advocate for treating people from that faith the same as anyone else in the United States of America. And the fact that people sided against them in that issue implicitly says that they don't really believe that people from that religion can be integrated within the United States. Because if you believe that they were just the same as us, like I believe, then you would also believe that they can be mocked and accept, like the followers of any other faith, that this is a nation where mocking anybody's religion is permitted. And I know I've talked about this on this channel before, but it's this very issue that is the reason why I hate Seth MacFarlane. You want to talk about an apathetic, vaguely liberal loser who doesn't really stand up for anything in his material, that's Seth MacFarlane. Look at the way that he responded to Matt and Trey, clearly and obviously taking this moral stand on this issue.
I mean, look, it's no secret. I think any combination of angry plus deity equals nuts, equals danger. You know, the question becomes, at what point is it worth it? At what point is it worth it for them to, you know, put themselves at risk? Like, is the joke so hilarious that we want to risk our lives? And that's, I don't know. If I were in that situation, honest, I don't know how I would react.
But they certainly have other ways. Trey and Matt can get laughs doing anything at all. They're the best among us. So it's not a question of doing it for the laugh. There is a moral element to this.
The man just fundamentally did not understand the principle behind Matt and Trey's actions in this situation, and when presented with the principle in clear and uncertain terms, he proved to be a coward.
I mean, there's no way to know. If it were me and I was in this situation, it was like, well, is this worth getting shot? Right. Is it the funniest joke anyone's ever written?
But
okay,
did they know
Fox,
that
if you want to censor this,
they knew that?
I mean, I think you cheapen Matt and Trey's morality, strength, and courage when you say, is the joke worth it? Because the question is, what is morally right?
Now, I know you guys love hyperbole, so we're going to use a little bit of it to bring this issue to a close. South Park is in no way, shape, or form a show that promotes or advocates for apathy. In fact, of all the television shows I've ever seen in my entire life, No show has been concerned with the issue of morality more than South Park. That's the entire basis of the show. Whether you agree or disagree with Matt and Trey's morality, you see what they believe in every episode on whatever issue they touch upon. Now, those are my thoughts. They are 100% right and accurate. If you disagree with them, you are completely wrong, but you can put those disagreements, wrong as they may be, in the comments down below. As always, you guys know the drill. Likes, share, subscribe, all that nonsense, support links, follow me on the social medias. Whatever you guys normally do at this point in the video, except for click off this video, you guys can do that. Till next time.